Hu Tao, arguably one of the strongest, if not the best, DPS characters in the entire game. What exactly changed since her last banner back in late 2021? What are some misconceptions I can answer? And does she still compete with the best? To some people, the answer is pretty obvious, and for others, well, that's what I'm here for. Remember to sub and like if you enjoyed. It would really mean a lot if we could reach 2k subs soon. Thanks, I greatly appreciate it. I'll quickly run through Hu Tao's general playstyle, as well as her kit for anyone that's unfamiliar. Her skill infuses her normal attacks with Pyro, and will gain a massive amount of attack depending on her max HP. The reason why she's able to deal out high damage consistently is because of her charge attacks during her skill, for a few reasons. Whenever she does a charged attack, she applies the Blood Blossom effect, which just adds a bit of damage for the rotation, which is nice, but isn't the real reason why it's so good. Not only is it good because of the decent scaling, but it also has no ICD, internal cooldown. This means she applies Pyro every time she uses a charge attack, and this is really good because it will allow her to cause a reaction every time she uses it. The one inconvenient thing about this is that unless you have C1, you will have to pay attention to her stamina a lot more. So if you're a Hu Tao at C0, just remember to be a little more conservative with her. Her burst is essentially a high scaling Pyro nuke that will damage enemies in front of her, which will also heal her at the same time. One more thing is that the reason why you see a lot of Hu Tao players shiver in fear whenever they see a healer is that she gets an additional pyro damage bonus and burst scaling when she has low HP, and that's why you commonly see her run a shield character instead of a healer. Pyro is meant to be the damage element, and since Hu Tao's ICD is non-existent, she is able to consistently vaporize her attacks with Xingqiu, and if we were ever to consistently get a fast cryo applicator, other than Ayaka, Hu Tao would only get better. She excels because she can react consistently and can easily hit high numbers. But there are some misconceptions or questions that are still asked today, so I will answer the ones I hear the most often. Since Hu Tao is having a rerun soon, a lot of people will probably ask if C1 or Homa is a better upgrade, and this really depends on what you value more, but generally I would say Homa is technically the bigger upgrade because it's just such a good weapon to have, and it gives Hu Tao a lot more damage, but that means you need to wish on the weapon banner, and as we all should know, it's a fucking scam. So unless you have enough to guarantee the weapon, or you're an irrational human being, I would generally recommend C1 over Homa, because on average, it takes a lot less wishes to get. Just keep in mind that generally, Homa is a way bigger upgrade, it just costs a lot more wishes. Like Xiao, Hu Tao drains her HP to do her own damage, and since she likes to stay at low HP to increase her damage even further, people often pair her with Zhongli, not only because of his shield, but he also offers a universal resistance shred and a small bit of crowd control with his burst. I feel like a lot of people label Zhongli as a necessity to play with Hu Tao, which I don't think is true at all. While yes, it is generally a lot more comfortable to play with Zhongli, and it's a personal preference, I feel like a lot of people still overestimate how much Hu Tao really needs a shield. She is already commonly built with a lot of HP, so the chances of her dying are very slim. Hu Tao's kit also helps with this because her burst does heal her, and it does give iframes, not to mention. She also has increased resistance to interruption during her skill, and the charge attack animation makes it hard to hit her. While I don't know if it has iframes or not, just let me know if it doesn't, but I notice it is a lot harder to hit her because she can travel through like a lot of the smaller enemies, but definitely not the bosses though. On top of this, she's almost always used with Xingqiu, who not only has great hydro application, but also has damage resist and enough healing to keep Hu Tao alive even if you run out of stamina. I'm not saying that Zhongli has no purpose in Hu Tao teams, I just think his value is just a bit overrated in those teams, and there are generally better options in my opinion. The last thing I want to bring up is not really a misconception, but just something I've been asked quite often. It's the argument between who is better between Hu Tao and Yoimiya. Even though I like Yoimiya a lot more, I'll give my full and honest opinion about this. Both are meant to be single target DPS, but in terms of overall damage, Hu Tao does win. There have been calculations done to support this argument, and Hu Tao does have the added bonus of being capable of hitting multiple targets, although it's a lot more difficult to do so without an animal unit. However, Yoimiya doesn't fall too far behind in terms of DPS. She's a lot easier to use and more flexible, if I may say. It's a lot harder to include a viridescent character in a Hu Tao team because she can't really apply Pyro before a rotation starts, so that's why you see Thoma, C4 Yanfei, or even Amber with Elegy occasionally. And while Bennett can work with her, he's surprisingly not one of the best options because he will heal Hu Tao, and it's not a huge loss in damage if she does get healed, but there are generally better options out there. So while Hu Tao can get better resolve results, Yoimiya doesn't fall far behind and is a lot more comfortable to play in my opinion. With that out the way, what exactly changed from her last rerun? There are only a few changes that are worth mentioning here. Dendro isn't one of them. One of the biggest buffs that Hu Tao has ever received wasn't a weapon or an artifact set, it's another character, who also just so happens to have a rerun alongside her in the next update. Released back in 2.7, Yelan is one of the best characters to ever support your Hu Tao. Off-field Hydra application, good damage, and she can buff your on-field DPS thanks to her passive talent. Easily one of the best characters to ever be released. On top of this, since Hydra Resonance was changed to buff HP instead of healing bonus, it only got better for both Hu Tao and Yelan. Double Hydro with Hu Tao is just busted. Xingqiu and Yelan complement each other so well and allow Hu Tao to easily vaporize while all of them do good damage, and this all results in high single target DPS. It's ridiculous how short single target DPS phases will last. With all of this added together, does Hu Tao still compete as one of the best DPS in the entire game? Well, yeah, obviously. There aren't really many characters that can potentially take her place. Her damage ceiling is actually ridiculously good. The way I see it is that with the release of Dendro, the amount of attention Hu Tao got kind of decreased because Burning and Burgeon aren't really that great in the first place, so Hu Tao fell out of the spotlight a bit because there aren't really many Dendro teams that are an upgrade to her typical Vaporized teams. Regardless, I don't think any Dendro teams or character additions drastically change her spot in the meta, and it probably never will. So yeah, I think Hu Tao still sits comfortably at the top. Is she the best? That's debatable, but she still competes with the very best. Thanks for watching everyone. Remember to sub and like if you enjoyed. The channel will eventually reach 2k subs soon, so it would be greatly appreciated if we could reach it. I appreciate the recent support on the channel. Even though school just started, I promised that I would post more often. Yeah, that definitely aged well. Apologies for not being so active the past few days, and for not having my own Hu Tao gameplay in the background. I currently don't have my regular setup with me because I'm moving to a new house soon, and it's been very busy. Anyways, let me know if you guys would like to see more videos like this in the future. Have a good night and day wherever you're at, and I'll see you all next time. Peace, and take care.